We're continuing with our study of Mareh Yaakov, and as we do every week, we're going to preface the Shiur with perhaps an exercise to see if we have an understanding of the notes based on the Parshat of the week. However, this week we're the week before Purim, so I figured we'd do a little bit of Megillat Esther. So we start with the story of Achashverosh, but we start a couple of years into his kingdom. We start at the third year of his kingdom. So we start with the phrase, Vayhi b'mei Achashverosh, and it was in the days of Achashverosh. And the story that we're going to tell is, this is a king who took over power from somebody else, slowly built up a base, became somebody who managed to reign over a large empire. So the first thing we're saying is, it happened, but we're going to start the story at the third year. So it happened, but something happened before that. So, Vayhi, and it happened, and it was, what note is that going to have? It's going to have a tipcha, because it's going to tell us that we're starting with something that happened before us. So, Vayhi, it started beforehand, but we're going to start the story from here, and we're going to have Achashverosh, who started out as so we're going to tell his story from this point on. So Bimei, in the days of, we're going to tell from this point on, the Munach, which tells us that we're telling from here on, we're not going to deal with the pre-story. And Achashverosh was somebody else, was a nobody, and turned into a king. So his name is going to have more than one thing that it's talking about. So he's going to be a katon. So Vayhi b'mei Achashverosh, and it happened because there's a backstory. But we're going to tell from here on the days of Achashverosh, somebody who was something before, and now is something different. And again, he is, who Achashverosh? We repeat his name again. We say, he's Achashverosh. Why are we repeating his name again? To tell us that he's not Achashverosh ben somebody else. He's not Achashverosh, the son of another king. He's Achashverosh, somebody who usurped the throne from somebody else. So his line starts from him and goes on from him. So with the who, the word who, he is, starts from him, no history before, and goes on. So what do we have? We have a Munach again. He is going to stand alone as this new king. He's going to be somebody who's important from here on in. We're going to focus on him and him alone. So Achashverosh, what note are we going to have? Revi'i. We're going to stand and we're going to talk about him as somebody who's significant and important in and of himself, and we want to focus on him and stop our attention there. Hamelech, who reigned from Hodu v'ad Kush, from India to Ethiopia. What we're saying here is, this is what we're telling about him. So we want to emphasize that he ruled. So we want to emphasize it, but we want it to lead into what's going to go on. And this is something that's to his merit, so it's something that's positive, so it's going to be a note that goes above. So we're going to be a pashta. And his kingdom had boundaries. It started from one place and went to another. So Mehodu, the place that it started from, starts from there, Munach, right? Because it started from there. And it went not only to Kush, it went in other directions as well. So it went to lots of places. So went to Kush, lots of places. Went to more than one place. He started out, Sheva v'Yasrim u'Me'ah Medina. He started out with a small base who supported him, and that small base who supported him then grew, and they conquered more, and finally formed a stable state. So he has this stable base that he started with, the 7 states. So this is something that is his protective base. And then he started at even more, another 20 nations, and then even more, another 100 nations. These two join together, they connect back to the 7, they don't separate themselves out, and then it tells us he was stable with his 7, and then he grew to another 20, and then he grew to another 100. And again, very important that in our Perush, this drush that we're doing, every word has to stand on its own. So he grew from 7 nations to another 20 nations, and that was something that led to him gaining yet another 100 after that. So each word stands on its own, and finally he creates this into a stable union, a stable state. Medina, Sof Pasuk.
Very cool.
So, again, we have a backstory, but we're going to start from this point on, and we're going to talk about Achashverosh, who was someone else before and is somebody else now. We're going to tell about him with no prehistory of him being a king, and then him being an important person from here on in who could stand on his own. His reign went from one border to multiple other borders, multiple other states, and he began with a base of 7 countries, and then grew to another 20, and yet another 100, and that created a stable state for him. So, the notes of the first pasuk of Achashverosh, according to the pasuk of Mareh Yaakov, at least we think that's what it would have been had it have been completed. So why don't we pause now for a minute, and we'll find where we're at.